I'd like to call this regular meeting to order. And I'd like to take a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiation updates with the REJ Teachers Chapter and Coalition Unit. I have Nikki and Anne Marie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I'd like to reconvene this meeting, and I'd like to ask audience members if they're willing and able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with some introductions. Good evening, I'm Diane McBride, Board President. To my left,
Bo Wright, Superintendent of Schools.
George DeMarteau, attorney for the district.
Good evening, Nikki LaPlaca, board member.
Good evening, Pat McHugh, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
Welcome, everyone. Dina Wilson, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction.
Hi, Andy Whitmore, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations.
Good evening, Nelana Sam, Assistant Superintendent of Student and Family Services.
welcome.
Ariana McKnight, Student Council Board Representative.
Good evening, May Abdullah, board member.
Good evening, Jennifer Laird, board member.
Hi, everyone. Karen Flanagan, School District Clerk. Hello, everyone. Anne-Marie Straczynski, Board Vice President.
All right, that brings us to agenda review. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I will go to the announcements. I have a couple of announcements. Today is National Teacher Recognition Day, so I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our teachers, our teaching assistants, our paras, our teacher aides, for all the work that they have done, not only just recently, but for the last year and a half, I would say. It has been a tremendous accomplishment, what has happened within this school district, and it's all based on those folks that are working within that classroom setting. So we thank you deeply from the bottom of our hearts for the work that you're doing in supporting our students. Couldn't be done without you. I'd also like to recognize that last week was our Bus Driver Recognition Week. So if you haven't had a chance to recognize a bus driver, someone within transportation, even the mechanics, because they support our drivers in making sure that all of our students get to us safely. The bus drivers are the first and the last person that they see as they come and go from our school buildings. And I also like to make note that starting May 6th through the 12th will be National Nurses Recognition Week. So if you have the opportunity to, send a note or say thank you to our school nurse teachers, they're also a valuable tool, resource, collaborator within our classrooms, within our buildings. So we want to thank them as well for all they do for our students and our school community. All right, that brings us then to our board member report from our student representative, Ariana.
Thank you. Members of Student Council are participating in a committee with some of our school social workers to begin another information campaign on social and emotional support for students and staff. Next week, Student Council will be putting together posters and links to support the committee's work and help in this effort to support the health of the school community. This is especially beneficial as AP exams are coming up and have already started, and regions and finals are coming up, so students as well as staff can use some extra support as we close out this school year. Near the end of May, Student Council will begin the process of holding elections for next year's officers who will lead Student Council next school year. That is all for the student report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariana. Some good work going on with the students. We thank you for that. brings us to the public forum. That's for items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to speak to something that is on the agenda, we ask for you to wait at that time, and we will have you raise your hand at that point, and we will call on you. But at this time, it will be for items that are of interest that are not on the agenda. We ask you to please keep your comments to about 3 minutes. And my first card that I have in front of me is Amy Alquist. If you would come up to the microphone, please, state your name and address for the record, and then you can make your statement. Thank you.
My name is Amy Alquist. I live at 81 Blackwell Lane in Henrietta. I'm thankful to be here tonight. I'm going to be sharing a letter that I sent to the school board regarding the music and arts director position that was eliminated due to budget cuts at the end of last year. Dear Rush-Henrietta Board of Education, thank you for the way that you continually serve our school community, promoting equity and achievement for all students, as well as striving to preserve programs for our students that develop the well-being of the whole child. I'm writing as a parent who has proudly had children in the district for the past 17 years. My husband and I have been thankful to watch our 2 daughters grow immensely through the music program here at RH. Excellence in music is one of the trademarks of our district. My children have taken advantage of numerous musical opportunities, including, but not limited to, band ensembles, jazz band ensembles, choral groups, musicals, individual NISMAs competition, which opened doors for participation in all-county chorus, all-state band, conference all-state band, and even all-Eastern, where students from other states on the East Coast performed together. At All-Eastern, only one person from the state of New York was chosen for each instrumental part, and Anna's All-Eastern selection in 2017 was a visible symbol and representation of the quality music program, outstanding music teachers, and strong leadership that has guided her time at Rush-Henrietta. Actually, both of my daughters are here tonight. If you could just wave, ladies. Anna graduated from Rush-Henrietta in 2017, and due to the growth and love of music developed here at Rush-Henrietta, she's completing her bachelor's degree this year as a music major and planning to continue studying music in pursuit of a master's degree at Nazareth in the fall. My youngest daughter, Hope, is completing her sophomore year here at Rush-Henrietta, and she too is active in the music program in both band and RH singers. In light of changes about a year ago, I'm concerned for Hope and other students that the priority for their music education is being compromised. As a parent, I've had various opportunities to interact with Donna Watts, the former director of music and arts for our district. Through those times, it was impossible to miss her leadership and personal investment which she brought to the district music program. Even as a parent, I could see the way that she cast vision for the music program. She demonstrated leadership, uniting all 9 of our schools. She organized district band festivals, orchestra festivals, choral festivals, each involving hundreds of students. It was fabulous for younger students to watch the older students and see how they could grow if they persevered with their music for the long term. Furthermore, in her position, Donna Watts was an approachable leader. And I personally appreciated being able to reach out to her when one of my kids was struggling. I'm deeply concerned that Mrs. Watts' leadership in the music and arts program has been sacrificed as part of budget cuts. My story is not an isolated one. Music and the arts have impacted so many students in our district. In fact, for some children, music and arts are the bright spot and passion which carries them through their days. Here's the heart of my question that I posed last year for you as leaders of this district. What does the Rush-Henrietta music program look like moving forward? Are we compromising the long-term excellence of the program and the success of our outstanding music and art teachers without someone to cast vision and handle the countless details, such as participating in NISMAs and organizing these district festivals? The district itself has publicly proclaimed the program as a source of pride, and it has been nationally recognized. Rush-Henrietta has been named Best Communities for Music Education for 11 consecutive years. By eliminating the Director of Music and Arts position, I believe we sacrifice the leadership, the vision, and the overall priority of music and arts. Eliminating the position intentionally or unintentionally sends a message to students, to parents, to our community, even to our teachers of music and arts, that music and arts are not worthy of the financial and human capital investment of leadership. The music and arts director position was divided at the end of last year. I believe that the music teachers have been doing significant work during this challenging season, but the director of social studies also became the director of music last year. Our athletic director became the director of arts in our district. I have nothing but respect for these fine gentlemen, for Mark McMillan and Tom Stewart, but I wonder if they are being stretched outside of their areas of expertise in taking on these positions that would be better suited by someone with a music and arts background. I acknowledge that we were recently nationally recognized due to our music program again. I believe that what was put in place in previous years has allowed us to keep this distinction. Does that mean that we do not need a director of music and arts and that things should be left as the status quo? No, on the contrary, I think that now is the time to ensure that this is maintained, that we restore position and invest in music and the arts more directly and intentionally following the disruptions of this pandemic. The loss of the Director of Music and Arts position compounds the loss that many feel with the cancellation of so many music and arts activities since the changing of how we have conducted schooling for this past year now. Reinstituting this director position feels like a shot of hope at a time when strong leadership would be helpful to ensure that our program stays at the top of its game and still identifies creative solutions for participation and access to an education filled with music and the arts. As a parent, I want to say unequivocally that the Director of Music and Arts position that Donna Watts previously served in should be reinstituted. To ensure the success and excellence of the music and arts programs for the sake of our students at Rush-Henrietta, I believe district leaders can find creative ways to make the necessary budget adjustments and revive this leadership position. Our diverse students deserve access and opportunities to explore music and the arts, to express themselves and their diverse cultural backgrounds. That diversity and exploration should not be compromised any further than it was in this past year. Thank you very much. Respectfully, Amy Alquist.
Thank you, Amy. The next card I have is Jenny Hampson.
Hi, I'm Jenny Hampson, 16 Partridge Berry Way, West Henrietta, New York, 14586. I come here on a very similar message. I come here to speak out today on behalf of the parents in this district in support of reinstating the Director of Music and Visual Arts. At the April 13th meeting, it was said this item would be put on the agenda for a future meeting, and the music community is invested in seeing this position restored as soon as possible so we can return to having a dedicated leader for music and visual arts programs with a background in music and arts and can advocate on behalf of those programs. This would be important in a normal year, but as we emerge from this pandemic and numbers in all ensembles are falling, the dedication, focus, and expertise of a music director is vitally important to maintain the excellent musical history of the music program in our district. I have letters of support from over 60 parents in our district that share this message, and I ask you to please consider to add this item to the agenda so we can work towards making this program whole as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny. If you want to drop those with Karen, then she'll make sure we get them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
There was a card that was left on the table. We picked it up, and it's for Tracy Everett. Is Tracy Everett here? No? Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Thank you. Kim Bodden, 6898 East River Road, Rush, 14543. So I'm very disappointed that we're clearly not going back to school full-time, 7 through 12. Disappointing. I know why, but we found out in the last week that in the papers that the CDC was influenced by the teachers union and was made to put additional information into CDC guidance relative to transmission rates. So that was not information based on science. So what I would like for the fall is, before I vote on the budget, I would like in writing guarantee that our children are going to go back to school 5 days a week. Additionally, I would like to know, before I vote on the budget, what the status is for mask wearing as well as vaccinations, if Rush-Henrietta is going to mandate vaccines. I'm not saying whether or not my family is. What I do and what everyone else does is independent. I may get vaccinated, my children may get vaccinated, but I don't think people should be forced to get vaccinated, and I think that should be addressed before people vote on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say to those that spoke about the music piece, it will be on an agenda in the near future, so please keep looking for it. I would try to say that I would let you know, but I know that I'll forget. So we will try to work together to let you know when that's going to happen. All right? Is there anyone else wants to speak in public forum? Okay, then we will move on to the final public hearing on the proposed budget. So I'm opening the final public hearing at this moment. Is there anyone that wants to speak regarding the budget? All right, seeing no one, then I will close the final public hearing regarding the 21-22 budget. This brings us to consent agenda items, March Treasurer's Report, bids of cooperative office supplies, Monroe County Sheriff's fuel contract, per diem stipend for election officials, appointment of the chairperson, appointment of election inspectors, CSE, CPSC recommendations, and the Board of Education meeting minutes for the 13th. There are not for the 27th yet. So that would be items A through H. I will take a motion to approve. Mrs. Laird and Mrs. Jasinski, any questions? All right. I'll take a motion. All in favor? Sorry. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. This brings us to our personnel actions. I'll take a motion to approve. I have Mrs. Laird again, and May, second. Okay, it's hard to tell with the glare. All right, May. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Looks like it carries 5-0. This brings us to item 10, our memorandum of agreement with the Administrators Association, the AARH, regarding changes to classified administrators' annual salary. I'll take a motion to approve. Mrs. LaPlaca, Nikki, Mrs. Jasinski, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. This brings us to our superintendent's report.
There was one item that was submitted as a written report. Any comments or questions related to the parent engagement end-of-year report? Just as an FYI, we will be this week proposing a draft to District Parent Advisory Committee related to what the parent engagement priorities will be for next year and getting feedback from that group.
Oh, the draft is included this time.
Okay.
Yep.
So you'll have a chance to take a look at that, and that will be proposed this Thursday. A few items that I would just like to update the board and the community on. One being that we've been contacted by the county to possibly host a vaccination clinic here on campus. We independently have hosted one, working with a local partner in the area. That was centered around making sure that our employees who haven't been able to have access to the vaccine. This was approximately 2 weeks ago that we held that clinic. We're looking at the possibility of partnering with the county and some other folks at the Dome Arena potentially to host a couple more clinics, to partner with them so that we can offer this as a community benefit for those families who want to take advantage. So that's in the works, and there'll be more information to follow on that. I know that later on in the agenda, we're going to be talking a little bit about a preview of my evaluation, I think. And I just wanted to let the board know that I will have completed my self-evaluation and super eval at the end of the week. So I'll notify you once that's been submitted. A reminder that the budget vote and board election is going to be in 2 weeks on May 18th. Please note that the location has changed. It's going to be at the high school this year. It will be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then lastly, it was noted the challenges of reopening at the secondary level, given the new guidance that was released by the State Department of Health. To this point, because we are still in a red zone and cases are at 203 per 100,000 as of today, and we need them to be under 100 per 100,000, we are unable to benefit from reducing the distancing requirement, which at this point is 6 feet. We would need it to go to 3 feet, and we're unable to meet the cohorting requirements. When we refer to cohorting, that's the ability to keep students separate from one another, which is we're able to do at the elementary level because those classes are self-contained, but unable to do at the secondary level because they obviously intermix between various classes, especially at the high school level. And it is also very difficult even at the junior high level, given our configuration. So my recommendation at this stage is to notify families at this point this week that we will be remaining remote through the end of the year. I feel that it's very unfortunate. I'm as disappointed as anyone that we're not able to fully reopen at that level, but it's just an impossibility right now. And so unless the board feels differently, I think that our families need to know. Most recently, the feedback that I received is that families just want to hear. If we're going to reopen, they want to know and they want to be able to plan. And if we're going to remain in this model through the end of the year, then they want to know. And I think we owe it to them to let them know. So my recommendation is that we notify families this week that we're going to be staying remote through the end of the year, because I just unfortunately don't think that it's feasible as much as I want to. The numbers just aren't falling fast enough. And even outside of that, from an operational perspective, you still need lead time. From the second that we say go, Andy's folks are probably at a minimum would need 10 days and probably deserve more like 14 or so. So it's just, it's not feasible. But having said that, we have to fully commit to a full reopening in September. We know that. We've been in contact with the Department of Health. That's what we're planning for, is a full reopening in September. I don't see any other way around that. But given where we are right now, and given especially at the secondary level, where they start taking Regents exams earlier in the month in June, it's just the timing isn't going to make sense to try and do this anymore. And I think people just need to know. The people that work here need to know, and they need to be able to prepare. And certainly our parents and our students need to be able to prepare accordingly as well. And so that is where we are.
You need for us to give you a consensus on that not being able to reopen at this time?
Yeah, that's the recommendation, is to notify families this week. And if the board is in agreement, then we will proceed. if you feel like we need to extend the window and give people more time, then we can pivot. But I just think at this stage, the feedback that I'm getting is that people just want to know so that they can plan for the end of the year. And we will certainly do what we can to bring students to campus for events and especially with our seniors, look at, ways that we can make the end of the year meaningful. Some optimistic news that I'm hearing, for those of you that watched the governor's address, it looks like there are going to be some adjustments made in terms of the numbers of people allowed at events, even though that they haven't amended the guidance just yet. So I'm hopeful about what can happen with graduation and some of the things that we want to do with year-end celebrations. I think it'll make it a lot more, from a logistics standpoint, a lot easier to work with the guidance. But as far as fully reopening schools, they're just, at the secondary level, is no way to pull that off right now.
It's very quiet at the table, so I think that means that we're all very disappointed, but you can't put them at risk when the rates are not going down. Anybody else want to say anything? No. So we all support that decision. I think they need to know. They need to know now, not waiting any later. It's time to make that choice.
And the difficult part is, it's not a matter of want or whether or not we can do it safely. It's a matter of, you can't do it right now without blatantly defying the guidance.
Correct.
So, there is no way to implement a cohorting model with integrity at that level. And there is no way that we could, put even at 70% capacity with, say, 30% of our kids in the RLA, there still is no way to meet those distancing requirements either. So that's the rub. It has nothing to do with what we want, what we think is best for kids, what we think we could do inside of the building safely, because I have full confidence in our people. School have been very safe places, but given the way that the guidance was written, there's just no way to do that, to bring students back fully and adhere to that guidance.
I am happy to hear you, though, talk about fully reopening in September, 5 days a week. I would assume that for now we have to plan that we'll have masks unless things change otherwise.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the guidance is rolled out, when it's rolled out, what it looks like. But I think at this stage, it's safe to say that there will be some sort of masking requirement. I would be surprised if there wasn't, although I've been wrong an awful lot throughout this pandemic when I've tried to make predictions. But we are planning on a full reopening for September. And I know that I speak for every school in Monroe County when I say that.
Will there still be an option for people who want the remote learning still, or will it just be everyone's back in school?
That's a great question. Another thing that we were just talking about countywide today. So there has been no guidance that has come out from the state education department or any other state entity dictating to school districts that we have to at this point. However, I anticipate that there will be some remote option that schools will have to provide to students for various reasons. So we are sort of wading into those waters and tentatively making plans because we're anticipating that school districts will be required to do it. Dean and I actually met about this the other day. We started to talk about what it might look like and what steps we could take, recognizing that we don't have official word. One of the things that you can expect is here within the next week or so that we'll probably put something out to families who are planning to, I should say families who this year were in the remote learning academy to gauge, in the event that we're required to offer this, how many families are planning to take advantage of it. And it'll go out to all families, so even if a family didn't take advantage of it this year, but for whatever reason felt like they needed to next year, we would at least be able to gauge, because there is a staffing component to that, as you know, and so we do need to begin to think about how many students potentially, assuming that we're required to offer this model, how many students would be taking advantage of it? What does that mean in terms of staffing and personnel? And then we'll start thinking about what the program needs to look like.
Thank you.
Is there a number of minimum students, then we are required to provide it, or we are required to provide that option anyways?
Again, we don't really have any, I don't know, like I said, I'm anticipating that we'll be required to offer that, but we don't have any information. I don't think there will be minimums, May. I think that, they didn't dictate, they didn't say this year you have to have a certain number of students in order to offer that option, and I don't think they'll do that this year. So I don't think there'll be a minimum, and it'll be interesting to see, how many families say that they want to continue in the Remote Learning Academy. But that's why we want to do it, is because we want to be able to gauge how many students, generally speaking, we'll have.
And that will be half a year, they will say that, sorry. I'm the only one down here.
I'm like, who's talking?
So they will have to say that they want, if we have to do this, we'll do a half a year again, correct?
Yeah, it's non-committal. It's more for, if that's.
Well, I'm not like if we do remote, it would be for half a year, that people would sign up again for half a year. I'm not saying this first email, but if we did do remote.
I'm sorry.
I can't understand you, Nikki.
Okay, so if, is that better? Sorry. So if we have to do remote and people sign up for remote again for the fall, is it committing to a half a year again because of the scheduling issues?
We still have to talk about that, but I would say yes, because again, you see that it's very difficult to just allow students to move freely between those two models because staffing has to go with them.
Yep.
So if you have, we saw that at certain points during the year where we did allow students to move, we had to shift staff, and that's very disruptive for teachers. It's very disruptive for principals. It's very disruptive if you have a child in a classroom and you didn't request any sort of a change, and all of a sudden you have to change classes because we had to collapse the classroom.
Okay.
To move a teacher into the RLA, because like I said, those resources follow the students. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Pat?
No, I think the board's aware of the planning that needs to go into it. One of the things we'd want to do again is if there's going to be some sort of remote program, we'd want to survey our teachers and staff again too, to see what their preferences are as far as placement. So there is a lot of work that remains if indeed we have to offer the remote.
Yeah, the hope this year is that now that we have that we know what to expect, that we're not going to be flying blind. I think, you remember what happened last summer. There was no guidance, and then I think like the third week in July, something came out, and then you spend a week or two trying to make sense of it, and then you have a few weeks to get ready to open schools. I hope that at the state level, they learn from some of those mistakes and give us a little bit more lead time, but again, there's no guarantees. And on the part of school districts, like I said, you're trying to anticipate, but I think we have a better idea in terms of what to expect as well and how to prepare ourselves. So the steps that we can take with reasonable certainty, we'll definitely do that in terms of our preparation, and those preparations have already started.
I just had a couple that I hope, that I agree, it's heartbreaking that we can't come back this year for the 7 to 12, but I think families and I know students will appreciate knowing the decision we've come to, because I know exams and APs are coming, and I hope that with the new guidance and the governor giving more allowance for crowds and capacity limits, that maybe we can adjust something for the seniors, because I know this year seniors have lost a measurable amount of their senior year. Also, with upcoming elections, May 18th at the high school, what is security going to look like for the high school, and what is parking going to look like, and how are we going to make sure we keep people out of the high school and only in the gym?
Andy, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, Karen has worked hard with a lot of folks, with Mike Palladino, with the school principal. There'll be staffing in the guard shack to direct voters to the rear of the west parking lot. There'll be reserved spots for parking, just similar to how we do it at the TAC. We reserve spots. And there won't be any PE classes scheduled for that day. We'll have at least one security guard. We'll have a table with greeters right in the lobby doors. We'll have at least one security guard, and during school day, probably two just in the gym lobby, just to make sure people don't go into the doors towards the school rather than into the gymnasium. And then Mike Palladino has a whole flow laid out to ensure social distancing in the gym, and then exit from the gym back to the parking lot. So, and also the high school is getting a number of student volunteers to help guide and manage traffic as well. So we're going to have students assisting both in the lobby and the gym. So I think we're pretty confident there's a good process set up.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the superintendent on his report? All right. Okay, yeah. Make it quick, please, yep. It's his report to us, so come on up and ask your question, please.
Don't we have a right to speak and ask questions during each of the sections?
This is the business meeting of the Board of Education. We are not required by law to necessarily have questions after each section, but please ask your question.
Forgive it.
This brings us to new business. First up is the Henrietta Memorial Day Reverse Parade. And my understanding is it's be similar to the last ones that were had, and I guess we've been invited to participate. So I'm asking board members who would be interested in participating. There'll be a place for us to stand, and we could hand out whatever we wanted to hand out, like we've done as we've been walking through the parade. So I'm looking for May 23rd. Anybody that's interested in attending, can I tell them we'll participate?
I think it'll depend on me, how
sorry.
it'll depend for me how my back is, if I could stand that long, so.
Okay.
What day of the week is it?
It's, should be a Sunday, the 23rd. I put my
My
calendar away.
grandbaby's here for that day.
What is that?
I said, I won't, because my grandbaby's here for that day.
Oh. Okay, we're down two. The grandbaby will be here.
That's got to take precedence.
Yep. Anybody else?
My daughter has a senior activity.
All right, I guess I can.
Can I get back to you? Can we get back to you? Or do we have to give you an answer now?
Yeah, you can get back to me. Yeah, that's fine.
Because I know there's something that I put on my calendar that day, but I'm not sure what the time is, but.
I'll have, Karen, when do we need to let them know by?
I haven't heard, but I'm sure the sooner the better so they can plan.
All right. So if everybody can let me know in the next day or so we can let them know. Personally, I would commit for myself, but I don't want to speak for the whole group. All right, so everybody get back to me shortly and we'll let them know. The next item is the Upstate Institute for School Board and Staff Development Representative. They're looking to see who would be our representative for next year, and Nikki said to me that she's willing to do it again unless somebody else would like to take that on. All right, so Nikki, thank you for volunteering, and we'll have reports from you throughout the year. Next up is the Superintendent Evaluation Preview. Really, for me, that is to remind you that, as he said, he'll have his information into Super Eval. Let's review it quickly so that we can get it completed and turn around for our evaluation on the 18th to meet with him. All right. Anything else on that? That brings us to board member reports. The first step will be Monroe County School Board Labor Relations Committee. James sent us the minutes from that. He is not here tonight. He's a little under the weather. I know Pat presented, so is there anything you would like to share, or?
Sherry Johnson had asked us to present, so Dom Pascientini had joined me in presenting information to the board members about some of the adjustments we've had to make to our staff and teacher supervision this year during the pandemic. Some of the work with the unions and the associations around modifying contracts, as well as the work that we did with our leadership staff around how to observe in the remote setting and how to develop look-fors and how do we define excellent teaching and highly effective teaching in that new domain. So it seemed to be well received.
All right, thank you. The next one is the Monroe County School Board Executive Committee. Bo and I attended that. The main gist of that was wrapping up, it's our last one of the year, reviewed the budget for the year, then presented the budget for next year, which was approved, talked about the annual meeting that's coming up at the end of the month, and some reports out from different committees, especially the COAC, and how much information they help put out this year regarding different areas of things that have been going on differently because of the pandemic. So that was pretty much the meeting. Anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that covers it.
All right. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up for our meeting this evening? All right, then that brings us to the board meeting recap and preview.
All right, so all items passed. Bo is going to have further information on hosting a vaccination clinic with the county. He'll send information out about that as he gets it. He's going to notify the parents this week about the secondary levels being unable to open, which was obviously very disappointing for all of us, but very good that the families will be able to know and plan ahead. We have to let Diane know in the next couple days if we are able to attend the reverse parade, and make sure that we complete Bo's evaluation when he has that in. I forgot if you said at the end of this week or the end of next week. I thought you said this week, so I'm going to go with that.
The end of this week.
And so then we'll get that done. And our next meeting is on May 18th. It's also our voting for budget and new school board members.
All right.
And that is it.
Anything else? Then I will take a motion.
Diane, one quick thing, just wanted to remind everyone that the retirement dinner will be that night, too.
Thank you. It'll be something different this year to be socially distant. But at least we're going to have that celebration this year that we weren't able to have last year. So that's good news. All right. I will then take a motion to adjourn our meeting. We got May and Nikki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.